It was the 14th day of August, 1751, in the market town of Henley-upon-Thames, Oxfordshire, England. A thin rain fell against the windows of houses along Hart Street. On the eastern side, near the bridge that crossed the river, a house stood with its shutters half drawn. Inside, a man lay dying. His name was Francis Blandy. He was 58 years of age and practiced law in the town. His office occupied the ground floor of his dwelling. Clients came to him regarding matters of property and debt. He charged fair rates and kept meticulous records. On the morning of the 14th, he did not rise from his bed. The household consisted of 3 servants. There was Susan Gunnell, who cooked and cleaned. There was Anne Emmett, who attended to the laundry and mending. There was Robert Harman, who managed the stable and ran errands to London when required. All 3 had been employed by the family for several years. At noon, the master's daughter brought him a bowl of gruel. Her name was Mary Blandy. She was 31 years of age and unmarried. She had prepared her father's meals for the past week, which was unusual, as this task ordinarily fell to Susan Gunnell. Mary carried the bowl up the narrow staircase, her footsteps soft upon the boards. She remained in the room for some minutes. When she descended, the bowl was empty. By evening, Francis Blandy's condition had worsened considerably. A physician was summoned. The Reverend Stevens, who was the brother of the deceased Mrs. Blandy, arrived and was shown upstairs. In the kitchen, the servants spoke in low voices. They had observed certain things. They had begun to suspect certain things. Mary Blandy had been born in 1720 to parents of modest prosperity. Her father's legal practice provided sufficient income to maintain a comfortable household. Her mother, Anne, came from respectable stock and managed the domestic affairs with careful attention. Mary was their only surviving child. 2 brothers had been born before her, but had not lived beyond infancy. As a girl, Mary received an education that was considered thorough for a young lady of her station. She could read and write with facility. She spoke French adequately. She played the harpsichord and sang in a pleasant manner. Her father ensured that she attended church each Sunday and conducted herself with propriety in all social settings. She was taught to embroider and to manage household accounts. By all observations, she grew into a polite and agreeable young woman. In the 1740s, as Mary reached the age when matrimony was expected, her father began to consider suitable matches. It was said throughout Henley that Mary would come with a dowry of £10,000. This figure was spoken of in drawing rooms and repeated in the marketplace. Whether the sum was accurate or exaggerated remained unclear, but the rumour persisted and attracted the attention of several young gentlemen. Mary accompanied her mother to Bath on 2 occasions. She attended assemblies and took tea with other young ladies of her circle. Suitors presented themselves. Some were dismissed by her father as unsuitable. Others withdrew their interest when they learned that Francis Blandy would not part with the dowry, but instead promised that Mary's future husband would inherit his estate upon his death. This arrangement did not satisfy those who sought immediate financial gain. Years passed. Mary celebrated her 30th birthday without securing a husband. Her mother grew anxious. In the summer of 1746, a gentleman began to call at the house on Hart Street. His name was William Henry Cranston. He held the rank of captain in His Majesty's army. He was the youngest son of a Scottish peer, Lord Cranston of that ilk. His manner was unremarkable but polite. He walked with Mary beside the River Thames. He attended social gatherings where she was present. He wrote letters to her when his military duties required his absence. Francis Blandy viewed the match with approval. His daughter would marry into an aristocratic family. He welcomed Captain Cranston into his home and spoke of him favourably to his colleagues. The engagement between Mary Blandy and Captain William Henry Cranston continued without formalisation for a period of 5 years. No date was set for the wedding. No banns were read in the parish church. Captain Cranston would appear in Henley for several weeks, then depart again for Scotland or London. Mary waited. Her mother waited. Francis Blandy began to wonder at the delay. In the spring of 1751, a letter arrived at the house on Hart Street. It bore the seal of Lord Mark Kerr, a Scottish nobleman of considerable standing. Francis Blandy opened it in his study. The contents informed him that Captain William Henry Cranston was already married. The letter stated that the captain had wed a young woman named Anne Murray in Scotland in 1745. A daughter had been born of the union. Francis Blandy confronted Captain Cranston with this intelligence. The captain denied the allegation. He claimed that Miss Murray had been his mistress, not his wife. He stated that an engagement had existed between them, but that no lawful marriage had taken place, as she was Catholic and he was Protestant, and she had refused to renounce her faith. He assured Francis Blandy that the matter would soon be resolved in the Scottish courts and that he would then be free to marry Mary. Francis Blandy was not persuaded. He instructed his daughter to cease all communication with Captain Cranston. Mary's mother, however, took the captain's part. She believed his account of events. She urged her husband to reconsider. The household became strained. Arguments occurred behind closed doors. In the summer of 1751, Mary's mother fell ill. The sickness progressed rapidly. Physicians attended her, but could offer no remedy. Within a fortnight, she was dead. It was reported that her final wish was that Francis Blandy should permit Mary to marry Captain Cranston. Whether she spoke these words or whether they were attributed to her after death was never established with certainty. Shortly thereafter, the Scottish Court of Session delivered its judgment. William Henry Cranston and Anne Murray were declared to be legally married. The court ordered the captain to pay his wife an annuity. His appeal was dismissed. Despite this ruling, Mary continued to write to him. Letters arrived from Scotland addressed to her. Francis Blandy intercepted some but not all. He forbade Captain Cranston from entering his house. On the morning of the 6th of August, 1751, Francis Blandy complained of severe pains in his stomach and bowels. He attributed the discomfort to something he had eaten. Mary prepared a dish of gruel for him, which he consumed. The symptoms did not abate. By evening he was unable to rise from his bed. The following day Mary again prepared his meals. Susan Gunnell noted that the mistress had taken over the preparation of the master's food, which was not her usual practice. On the 8th of August, Susan Gunnell retrieved a half-consumed bowl of gruel from Francis Blandy's chamber. Rather than discard it, she ate what remained. Within hours, she too fell ill with violent stomach pains and vomiting. The servants began to speak among themselves. Anne Emmet observed that a white powder had been seen near the kitchen fire. She had witnessed Mary stirring something into her father's tea on more than one occasion. The maids recalled that Mary had spoken of her father in harsh terms, referring to him as a toothless old rogue who stood in the way of her happiness. On the 13th of August, the Reverend Stevens arrived at the house. He was the brother of Mary's deceased mother and had come to inquire after his brother-in-law's health. Susan Gunnell and Anne Emmet took him aside and shared their suspicions. The Reverend Stevens went immediately to Francis Blandy's bedside and informed him that he might have been poisoned. Francis Blandy, though weakened, refused to believe that his daughter would harm him. He placed the blame upon Captain Cranston, stating that the scoundrel must have deceived Mary into administering some harmful substance. He requested that a physician examine the white powder that had been found in the house. Mary, learning that suspicions had been raised, took the letters from Captain Cranston and the remaining powder and placed them upon the fire in her chamber. She did not wait to ensure they were consumed by the flames. Anne Emmet entered the room and retrieved the papers and powder before they were destroyed. These items were handed to Dr. Norton, who had attended Francis Blandy since the onset of his illness. On the 14th of August, Dr. Norton summoned Dr. Anthony Addington, a physician of considerable reputation, to provide additional consultation. The two men examined the patient and agreed that his symptoms were consistent with poisoning by arsenic. By evening, Francis Blandy expired. An inquest was convened the following day. The coroner, a man named Lane, conducted a post-mortem examination of the body of Francis Blandy in the presence of Dr. Norton and Dr. Addington. The deceased was found to have extensive inflammation of the stomach and intestines. The lining of the stomach showed signs of corrosive damage consistent with the ingestion of a poisonous substance. Dr. Addington prepared a written report of his findings. He noted that the stomach contained a dark, viscous material and that the organs exhibited discoloration characteristic of arsenic poisoning. Samples were preserved in sealed containers for further analysis. The two physicians agreed that the cause of death was the administration of white arsenic over a period of several days. The white powder retrieved from the fire in Mary Blandy's chamber was subjected to examination. Dr. Addington performed several tests. He dissolved a portion of the powder in water and added a solution of lime water, which produced a white precipitate. He heated another portion upon a piece of charcoal, which produced the distinctive garlic-like odor associated with arsenic. In his professional opinion, the powder was white arsenic of a purity commonly obtained from apothecaries. The letters from Captain Cranston, though partially burned, were legible in parts. One letter, dated the 15th of June, 1751, made reference to a powder that would cause Francis Blandy to view the captain more favourably. The letter instructed Mary to mix the powder with her father's food and beverages. It stated that the powder would have no ill effects but would alter her father's disposition toward the captain. The servants provided depositions. Susan Gunnell testified that she had seen Mary stirring a white substance into her father's gruel on the morning of the 8th of August. She stated that she herself had eaten the remainder of the gruel and had fallen violently ill afterward. Anne Emmet testified that Mary had attempted to destroy letters and powder by placing them on the fire. She stated that she had retrieved these items before they were entirely consumed. Robert Harmon testified that he had been sent to London by Mary on the 10th of August to deliver a letter. He had not been told the contents or the recipient. The letter was never recovered. The coroner recorded a verdict of willful murder against Mary Blandy. A warrant was issued for her arrest. She was taken into custody on the 16th of August and conveyed to Oxford Castle Jail. The trial of Mary Blandy commenced on Friday, the 3rd of March, 1752, at the Oxford Assizes. The proceedings were held before the Honourable Mr. Justice Legge and Mr. Baron Smythe. The courthouse was filled to capacity. Members of the public had travelled from considerable distances to witness the trial. The prisoner was brought in shortly after 10 o'clock in the morning. Mary Blandy appeared in the dock dressed in mourning attire. She was composed in manner and answered all questions directed to her in a clear voice. The indictment was read. She entered a plea of not guilty to the charge of murdering her father, Francis Blandy, by means of poison. The prosecution presented its case with methodical precision. Dr. Addington testified regarding the post-mortem examination and the analysis of the white powder. He stated unequivocally that Francis Blandy had died as a result of arsenic poisoning and that the powder found in the prisoner's possession was arsenic. Dr. Norton corroborated this testimony. Susan Gunnell testified that she had seen the prisoner mix white powder into her father's food on multiple occasions. She described her own illness after consuming the gruel. Anne Emmett testified regarding the attempted destruction of evidence. The Reverend Stevens testified that Francis Blandy had, in his final hours, expressed the belief that he had been poisoned, but had attributed the act to Captain Cranston rather than to his daughter. The letters from Captain Cranston were read aloud in court. The contents made clear that the captain had sent the powder to Mary with instructions for its use. The defence argued that Mary Blandy had believed the powder to be a harmless charm or potion designed to make her father more amenable to her marriage. It was contended that she had no knowledge that the substance was poisonous. The judge, in his summation, instructed the jury that they must determine whether the prisoner had administered the poison with knowledge of its deadly properties. He noted that the continued administration of the powder, even after her father fell ill, suggested such knowledge. The jury retired to consider their verdict. They returned after 5 minutes. The foreman announced that they found the prisoner guilty of the murder of Francis Blandy. The judge placed the black cap upon his head and pronounced the sentence of death by hanging. Mary Blandy showed no outward emotion. The verdict divided public opinion throughout England. Some believed that Mary Blandy was a foolish woman who had been deceived by a villainous suitor into poisoning her father for financial gain. Others held that she was a cold and calculating murderess who had acted with full knowledge of her crime. Pamphlets were printed and sold in the streets. Ballads were composed and sung in taverns. The case was discussed in drawing rooms from London to Edinburgh. While confined in Oxford Castle Jail, Mary Blandy maintained her innocence. She wrote an account of her life and the events leading to her father's death. The narrative was published under the title Miss Mary Blandy's Own Account of the Affair Between Her and Mr. In it, she portrayed herself as the victim of Captain Cranston's deception. The publication sold widely and added to the considerable public interest in the case. It was discovered that Francis Blandy's estate was valued at approximately £4,000, not the £10,000 that had been rumoured for so many years. The dowry that had attracted Captain Cranston and others had been largely fictitious. Mary, as the sole beneficiary, inherited the entire sum, though she would not live to enjoy it. On the 6th of April 1752, Mary Blandy was taken from the jail to the place of execution. A large crowd had gathered. She was conveyed in a cart through the streets of Oxford. Upon reaching the gallows, she ascended the ladder with steadiness. Her final words to the executioner were a request that he not hang her too high for the sake of decency. The drop fell shortly before noon. Death was immediate. Her body was taken down after the customary period and was conveyed to Henley-upon-Thames. She was buried beside her parents in the churchyard of the parish church. No monument marked the grave. Captain William Henry Cranston remained in France. He was never apprehended or tried for his role in the crime. On the 2nd of December, 1752, 8 months after Mary Blandy's execution, he died in Furness of natural causes. He was 40 years of age. His estate, such as it was, passed to his lawful wife, Anne Murray Cranston, and their daughter. The case prompted discussions in legal circles regarding the culpability of those who act under the direction or influence of others. No reforms were enacted. The file was closed. The record remained in the archives of the Oxford Assizes, bound in leather and stored among thousands of similar documents. In Henley-upon-Thames, the house on Hart Street passed to distant relations. The rooms were cleared, new tenants arrived. Within a generation, few remembered the name of Mary Blandy. The bridge still crossed the Thames, the market still convened each week. Beyond that, only silence.